In a subway station, a young man stands still, carefully observing a girl. She carries a guitar on her back and seems focused on her phone, naturally sliding her fingers across the screen. He, unable to help himself, thinks that she is there again, occupying the same nearby seat, while he watches her out of the corner of his eye. He remembers that they have run into each other several times in the subway. It's almost an unspoken routine. She always goes home late, and today is no exception. Once again, they find themselves on the last train of the night. As he watches her, the young man discreetly averts his gaze and starts imagining things about her. Because of the instrument she carries, he assumes she studies music or maybe is part of a band. The idea intrigues him, though he can't be sure. Then, suddenly, the girl looks directly at him. Their eyes meet, and the eye contact completely unsettles him. The young man feels a knot in his stomach, aware that he had gotten lost in his thoughts and had been watching her for quite some time without realizing it. He reflects in silence. Although they have run into each other multiple times, he is convinced that only he is aware of these repeated encounters. To him, these coincidences are nothing more than that, mere happenstance, not something dictated by fate. However, what he doesn't know is that the girl has a different perception. Trying to distract himself from his thoughts, the young man decides that he won't be able to concentrate on reading as he had planned. He takes out his headphones and looks for some music. Among the options, he wonders if he should listen to that new song. Finally, he chooses the melancholic Dark Planet by Long Afternoon. As he presses play, he considers the song's introduction to be unbeatable. No matter how many times he has heard it before, it always moves him with the same intensity. The first verse is no exception. It is simply magnificent, capable of transporting him to another world. He admits to himself that it is a masterpiece, one of those songs that touch the soul, though unfortunately, almost no one seems to know it. This thought fills him with a certain melancholy, wishing with all his heart to share this feeling with someone who understands its greatness. Suddenly, he wonders why the sound seems so low. He adjusts his headphones a bit and questions whether they are damaged. Even so, he decides to gradually increase the volume, turning it up more and more until reaching the maximum. That's when, unexpectedly, the girl next to him calls out to him. Her voice surprises him, as he hadn't noticed how close she was. She leans slightly toward him, and with a tone that mixes patience and reproach, asks him to lower the volume because she can hear the song clearly from where she is. Confused, the boy checks his phone and, to his embarrassment, realizes that his headphones weren't plugged in. He freezes for a moment, feeling the heat of shame on his face as the girl watches him. Before he can say anything, she breaks the silence and asks if he really likes that song. Her question catches him off guard, and he hesitates to respond. However, before he can find the right words, she surprises him even more. She confesses that she also loves that song. The boy is left speechless. Surprise and joy take over him, and little by little, a spark of excitement lights up his face. His eyes begin to shine as he feels that he has finally found someone who shares his passion. With enthusiasm and a nervous smile, he quickly stands up. He tells the girl that he is a big fan of the composer and also enjoys other works by the artist. For the first time in a long while, he feels that the notes of that song have found an echo in someone else, and that fills him with happiness. The girl responds that she likes it too, which encourages the young man, who excitedly comments that he has never met anyone who enjoys that band, Long Afternoon. He also mentions that he considers the artist's songs to be very good, regretting that he is an independent musician with few fans. The girl nods and explains that indeed he doesn't have many followers because his songs don't fit current trends and aren't promoted or communicated enough. The young man reflects on this and agrees, but adds that he believes if the artist did concerts, the audience would record videos, share them on social media, and that would help more people discover him. Then he curiously mentions that the singer's Instagram profile only features a drawn character, a yukin, as if he wants to maintain an aura of mystery around his identity. That's when the girl, intrigued, asks if he thinks the singer should reveal his face. The young man, somewhat thoughtful, replies that it's not necessary. As a fan, he would love to know what the artist looks like, but he also admires that the musician focuses solely on creating the music he loves rather than getting distracted by other things. He thinks that this touch of mystery makes him unique and confesses that he appreciates long afternoon just the way he is now. The girl smiles softly, as if she finds his opinion interesting, and suddenly asks if they have met before. The young man is taken aback for a few seconds, unsure how to respond. Finally, somewhat nervous, he murmurs that he's not sure, though in his mind, he decides to pretend he has never seen her before. He thinks that if he acts otherwise, she might realize that he has actually been paying close attention to her. Noticing his reaction, she walks toward the train entrance and, with an amused look, questions whether what he said is true. Saying that she thought she had seen him before, she mentions that she noticed how he always stares at her and asks directly if that isn't true. Upon hearing those words, the young man feels a wave of emotions overwhelm him, almost as if he had been struck by an unexpected blow. He is left speechless for a moment, processing. After that moment, he reflects on whether she really knew that he had always been silently watching her every time they crossed paths on the train, and that they had even taken the same train day after day. The thought overwhelms him and fills him with unease. Somewhere else, more precisely at his workplace, the young man, unable to contain himself, shouts, letting out the accumulated tension. He feels condemned, as if everything he has done so far has come to light. At that moment, his boss appears, having heard the shout, and casually asks if someone had a rating attack or if something out of the ordinary happened. However, he does not respond directly to his boss and instead looks for her to vent. Desperately, he asks what he should do and what would happen if he were taken as a stalker. His boss, upon hearing his words, furrows her brow in confusion and asks him seriously what he is talking about. The young man, trying to explain himself, recounts in detail what happened on the train, his thoughts, and his fear of having scared the girl. Oyuju, the boss and owner of the cafe where he works, listens attentively to the story. With a calm tone, she tells him that there is nothing to worry about and that, in fact, the mere fact that the girl mentioned having noticed him could mean that she was already aware of his existence. Despite his boss's words of encouragement, the young man confesses his concern that he might have intimidated her in some way. He wonders if she considers him a stalker, but reasons out loud that if that were the case, she would probably have avoided taking the same station long ago. His boss nods, supporting his reasoning, and adds that if he is truly worried, the best thing to do would be to talk to the girl directly the next time they meet. According to her, only then will he know exactly how she feels and clear up any misunderstandings. Oyuju even jokes that maybe a romance could come out of this situation. However, the young man quickly dismisses the idea, considering it nonsense. But his boss insists, asking with a mischievous smile why it wouldn't be possible, especially considering how many times he has seen her. He admits that it is true, but also clarifies that he does not have those kinds of feelings for her. Moreover, he believes he is not in a position to fall in love with anyone, as he is busy with graduation and needs to prepare for work and earn money to pay rent. He confesses that he was simply curious because he had seen her so often and always wondered why she returned home so late and what she did for a living. His boss, upon hearing this, asks if that isn't how all relationships start. The boy comments that he doesn't know. He adds that he would be satisfied if they could just be friends, since that way they could talk about something they both enjoy. That's when Oyuju comments that this is precisely how relationships begin, which annoys the boy, who responds that it's not true. But his boss changes the subject and mentions that it's time to work since they have a pending order. After work, while heading home, the young man wonders if he will meet the girl again on the last train. He considers apologizing to her for always watching her, since he wants to clarify things so she doesn't think he is a weird stranger. However, he also wants to have an intense conversation about long afternoon, as it is difficult to find someone with the same taste. So he decides to stop for a moment and hopes that she thinks the same as he does. At the station, the young man encounters a drunk worker occupying the seat where he always sits. He wonders why that man is sleeping there and feels somewhat annoyed. He assumes that now he won't be able to sit on the bench near her to start a casual conversation. Just at that moment, she looks at him. At the same time, he moves away, assuming that it won't be possible to talk to her today, and decides that he might as well study a little since it seems odd to force a conversation. He doesn't want to approach her because he fears causing misunderstandings, so he tells himself that today he will pass by without saying anything. But the girl asks him if he really plans to wait for the train standing up. That catches his attention, so he looks at her. She tells him that the train is still a while away and asks if he really intends to stand the whole time. He replies that there are no more seats, but she lightly taps the empty space on the seat next to her and tells him that there is a free spot right there. She invites him to feel free to sit for a while, at least until the last train arrives. The boy is left speechless and reflects on what she said, remembering someone and how, back then, they also approached him in a similar way. He thinks for a moment and concludes that this person is already part of his past, while now he is living in the present. Finally, he decides to sit for a while and leave when the train arrives, taking a seat next to the girl. Although he tries to keep some distance from her, the girl quickly asks if he usually takes the train at that time and if he often gets home late. He responds that he works the evening shift at a cafe and that although his boss allows him to leave early, he sometimes finishes late. His answer leaves the girl thoughtful, as she begins to deduce more things about the young man just from knowing that he works part-time. Then she comments that he is probably still a university student, to which he confirms that he is in his 4th year. She is surprised and assumes that he must be preparing his job applications, something he also corroborates. She adds that it must be difficult to work late and study at the same time. Intrigued, he asks if she also comes home late from work. However, she jokes that no, she simply likes talking to guys with peculiar tastes before going home. This left the young man startled, but then it became clear that it wasn't a joke. She explained that it was about people with unique and somewhat hardcore preferences, and mentioned that she dealt with some clients like that before heading home. Then, the young man began to imagine what the girl's job could be. He wondered what all of that meant and if it was something he was completely unaware of. Seeing him confused, she gave a slight smile and then clarified that she was referring to a music studio with rehearsal and recording rooms. She revealed that many bands formed by office workers usually book the studio late at night. Being the studio director, she often works late and sometimes stays up all night. The boy, somewhat nervous, managed to understand the part about the music studio. However, the woman asked if he had just thought of something strange. He replied that he hadn't, although his attitude betrayed that he had. Teasing him a bit more, she questioned whether he wasn't thinking something weird just because she had mentioned the word hardcore. Although the young man denied it, his embarrassment gave him away. He then reflected that she was completely playing with him, steering the conversation wherever she wanted. He thought it must have been easy for her to manipulate him. Finally, she asked how he had discovered long afternoon, arguing that with his job and studies, he must have little time to explore new music. The young man replied that finding such an unknown artist had been more of a coincidence than exploration. He recalled that one day he was bedridden with the flu and spent a lot of time resting. He explained that, living alone, there was no one to take care of him, so he just stayed in bed, with the entire house silent, which made him feel even lonelier. He considered playing some music, so he searched for something at random. That was when he stumbled upon the song "Dark Planet" by Long Afternoon. He confessed that, at first, he just thought the melody was good. However, the more he listened to it, the more details caught his attention until he became completely enamored with the song, especially the lyrics, which seemed to elevate everything to another level. The girl watched him attentively until he asked what her favorite Long Afternoon song was, even though he knew the band didn't have too many songs. She quickly turned around and replied that she liked Dark Planet and Tidal Flow. The young man burst with excitement upon hearing her answer since he also loved Tidal Flow. He described how he found it fantastic, especially the part where the rhythm changes after the chorus. Still excited, he commented that Long Afternoon was brilliant in the use of electronic instruments, something the girl confirmed with a slight smile. Just at that moment, the train was arriving, and the young man mentioned that it had gotten very late. That was when the girl stood up and told him that what he had just said about the music would surely make Long Afternoon very happy. That comment left him completely flushed. Then, he thought that he would like to talk a little more with her. He didn't want to go on a date or become closer. He just wanted to keep talking about the things they liked. Finally, he introduced himself as Lee Yo-eun and, somewhat nervous, asked if she could tell him her name. She looked at him for a few seconds and, in a calm voice, responded that her name was Shin Hae-in. After saying that, she mentioned that now that he knew her name, he had better greet her the next time they met. If he didn't, she would ignore him forever. That encouraged him, and he responded that he would. Already at home, Hae-in stepped out of the bathroom, drying her hair. Sitting on the bed, she began to reflect on Lee Yo-eun, recalling a moment when they were on the train together. On that occasion, there was a drunk man next to Lee Yo-eun, and on the floor was a wallet. She wondered whose it was and thought that she couldn't just leave it there. However, the boy picked it up and immediately placed it in the drunk man's pocket. Upon witnessing that action, Hae-in reflected that he could have simply left the wallet near the man, but instead, he chose to put it directly into his pocket. Even that could have caused him trouble, as he might have been mistaken for a pickpocket. However, she considered that a good person like him doesn't think too much before showing kindness. She lay down on the bed and thought that she already knew he was kind, but she hadn't expected him to be a fan of Long Afternoon. More specifically, she hadn't expected him to be the passionate fan type. Then, turning over, she wondered if he would still like them if he knew that she was Long Afternoon, or if it would be like that one time, remembering a situation that happened when she was a student. After that brief moment, she reflected that she was once again thinking about something she didn't want to remember. She decided not to give it importance and told herself that people love Long Afternoon for the music. However, she restrained herself, reminding herself that she must not reveal that she is Long Afternoon. She thought that it didn't matter if Woojin stole the spotlight, as long as she kept making good music. She would be fine just being Shin Hae-in, being herself, and continuing to do what she loves. And with that, we've reached the end of this week's chapter. If you made it all the way to the end, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this chapter in the comments. Don't forget to like and subscribe so our community can keep growing and we can reach more fans like you. See you in the next video. In the meantime, if you're from the near future, I'll leave you the next chapter and a comic you're sure to enjoy. Thank you for being part of this adventure.